Hillary Clinton, she questioned the election results of 2016.
In a little bit of a different way, though.
No.
It was definitely different.
She actually questioned the outcome.
Hillary Clinton conceded the election the next day, the day after the election. You don't see how that's different than Donald Trump spending not only months, but years after the election, undermining every institution.
Tell me an institution he undermined. Every institution? Every institution?
Well, let me ask you this. Do you trust Bill Barr?
No.
Do you trust the DOJ?
No.
Do you trust the FBI?
No.
So these are the institutions he's been undermining.
Well, they should be undermined. The FBI was lying in front of Congress.
In a moment, I'm going to show you a string of similarly facepalm-worthy things being said out of conservatives' mouths, out of MAGA people's mouths. And I will conclude this video with an event from back in 1938 that very well might have been the blueprint for all of this, for this exact kind of manipulation and overreaction and misunderstanding of the facts. Before we get into it, though, just this very cowboy hat wearing man's cognitive dissonance is mind-blowing, is it not?
No.
It was definitely different.
She actually questioned the outcome.
Hillary Clinton questioned the election too, but you realize conceding the next day is different than continuing to not concede and undermine all of our institutions, right? I mean, look at this guy's face. Also, side note, just cut the nose hair. Please cut the nose hair. Not what I need to be focusing on, but it's hard not to. I hope you understand.
Make America great again. It's been his mantra since he's run in 2015. What does that mean? What is again? When was America great?
Well, that question right there says everything that I need to know about you, that you don't really think America was ever great at any time. I think America was great. The spirit, the whole purpose for America was about the American spirit, coming here and making something for yourself and having the opportunity to do that for yourself, to work hard. And that's what America is all about. So the people that hate America will always say, well, when was it ever great? It's just not a very good attitude to have, in my opinion.
And when was that lost in your estimation?
I think a lot of it was lost when the Federal Reserve took over the money system. We need to go back to a gold and silver-backed system where currency it counts.
So apparently you're not allowed to work hard and climb in this country anymore, according to this woman with Trump in the largest font ever made on a hat or even to be seen from outer space. It's quite intense, but at least that's a new one. Usually you don't hear that answer when you ask MAGA people when America was great again. Usually it's tinged with an incredible amount of racism, kind of like this guy.
I'd like to get back like it was in the 60s.
Before all the civil rights stuff?
Before all the civil rights stuff.
So you would like to see things go back to before the civil rights movement?
Oh, yes. You know, where people have their freedom in this country.
Well, certain groups didn't have as much at the time, right?
Right. They didn't have as much at the time. But we still got to get back where this country stands up for this country.
Yes, we certainly do have to get back where this country stands up for this country. And we must get back to the time, according to this very white man, before the civil rights movement, when people had freedom, except people who didn't have freedom and were treated far worse than even second-class citizens. But it was great for this guy.
Oh, yes.
Because he had the same level of freedom he has now, but also didn't have to respect minorities back then, which was really great for him, apparently. I mean, that man legit thinks that America is just for white people. That's all it should ever serve. Much like this next person thinks America is just for Christians.
You have to swear on a Bible to be an elected official in the United States of America. He alleges that a Muslim cannot do that ethically, swearing on the Bible.
You don't actually have to swear on a Christian Bible. You can swear on anything, really. I don't know if you knew that. You can swear on a Jewish Bible.
Oh, no,
I
swore on the Bible. I've done it 3 times.
I'm sure you have. I'm sure you've picked a Bible, but the law is not that you have to swear on a Christian Bible. That is not the law. You don't know that? All right, Ted Crockett.
I don't know. I know that Donald Trump did it when we made him president.
Because he's Christian and he picked it. That's what he wanted to. That's what he wanted to swear in on.
I mean, you don't even have to prove these people are stupid. You see it all over their faces. This man's response to, you don't actually have to choose a Christian Bible, was the very witty, Way to come back with it. But Donald Trump did something. Yeah, so you and Donald Trump both did a thing. How proud you must be. So what am I getting at here? Conservatives' detachment from reality is a direct result of our country's abandonment of legitimate news media, which we've replaced with profit-driven, very, very fake news media instead. Complete profit-interested without any sort of moral backing news media. We live in a country where people can choose what news they want to hear and then only watch that specific news. And if it doesn't fit their political ideology, they can go la 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 until they find a different news outlet that does. But that is not how news is supposed to work. News is supposed to be based with objective truth, and that sort of being the flagship of what it is. Even worse than that is over the years, outlets like Fox News have developed this strategy of preying on people's fears to maximize viewership. So it's not only not accurate, but it's also very, very fear-based to scare you into your belief system. That's why you always hear them talking about the border crisis and immigrants are invading the country and stealing the jobs of hardworking American citizens, when no immigrants ever stolen your job, most likely. And it's possible that the blueprint that I mentioned at the top of this video goes all the way back to 1938, when it may have been unintentionally created during the War of the Worlds radio drama. I mean, if you know the story, during the broadcast, listeners were accidentally misled to believe a Martian invasion was underway. We were being literally attacked by aliens from the sky, not the ones I think are coming over the border. And it caused widespread panic. Orson Welles was such a good actor that this fear spread, stemming from the realistic and immersive nature of the broadcast, as well as a lack of clear disclaimers. It sounded exactly like this.
Ladies and gentlemen, am I on? Ladies and gentlemen, here I am, back of a stone wall that adjoins Mr. Wilmer's garden. From here, I get a sweep of the whole scene. I'll give you every detail as long as I can talk and as long as I can see. More state police have arrived. They're drawing up a cordon in front of the pit. It means... Wait a minute, something's happening. A humped shape is rising out of the pit. I can make out a small beam of light against a mirror. What's that? There's a jet of flame springing from the mirror and it leaps right at the advancing men. It strikes them head on. Lord, they're turning into flames. Oh, the whole field's caught up by the woods, the barns, the gas tanks of the automobiles spreading everywhere. It's coming this way now, about 20 yards to my right.
You see, that broadcast and the panic it caused illustrates the intense power that media has on people and how easily information can evoke such strong emotional responses, shaping public perceptions and highlighting the significant responsibility that media outlets then have to ensure accurate and responsible communications. Don't worry, they're not listening. Unfortunately, outlets like Fox News have no interest in maintaining that responsibility, and so our political climate and elections are shaped by their broadcasts. When you have organizations that only care about money, only care about profits, let their morals be damned, let the facts that they know to be true be damned, as we saw in the Dominion lawsuit, that they were intentionally telling their audience enormous facts relevant to the future of our nation that they knew to be not true. Well, then we've sold the country down the river. And what do we have left? Well, I would tell you, but do you hear that? There's aliens coming. I gotta go. I'm Ben Glebe for Rebel HQ. Follow me on Instagram for lots more.
Would you rather have Trump as a dictator or Biden as a president?
I'd rather have Trump as a dictator than Biden any day. It's kind of obvious who knows what they're doing. There's no dictatorship with Trump. He cares. He's for America.
I mean, he did say he would be one for a day, right?
For a day, but I still don't see it.
There's a lot of foreign aid being requested by Ukraine and by Israel. Do you support that foreign aid?
Okay, ask the question one more time.
Yeah, do you support the foreign aid, giving foreign aid to Ukraine and Israel at a fraught time in international policy right now?
I would have to say, I think what we need to do is focus on our country first. Before we go and spending money on other people and helping them, even though other countries do need our help, if we can't help our own country first, then we shouldn't be helping other countries.
For Ukraine, a lot of people are saying it helps us because it defends democracy.
It does. I completely understand. But I honestly think that the government, got us into this mess. So.
The government got us into the mess?
Yes.
So you don't think it had to do with Putin, it's more the U.S. government?
It really depends on who's running the show, and I think it's because of who's running the show is kind of why we are what we're at right now, because Trump would not have allowed this to happen, and we wouldn't be in this mess right now if he was the one running it.
How would you imagine that Trump as president would have stopped Putin from going into Ukraine?
Absolutely, because Trump doesn't put up with anything, and he would have, he would have threatened them, and this wouldn't have happened. He would not put up with anything. He would let them know face to face what he thinks, and he would let them know, like, hey, basically, if you do this to us, we're going to do this back to you. Don't even try.
But it was being done to Ukraine, not to us.
Right. We need him back, because if not, he's saving us. It's us against the government. And that's what he means. He's going to fight for us.
But if he's president, he's the government, right?
Not really, because he's not a politician.
What's one thing that he did when he was president last time that made your life better?
A lot of things. I think in a sense, because he kind of made everybody wake up to what's going on. And that's what made my life better. Because before him, I didn't realize everything that was going on.
Can you tell me a little, like specifically what some of those things are that are going on?
All the things that the government has been doing. For example, they obviously get people in who they want in no matter what, regardless if the voting is real or fake.
Do you think that the 2020 election was stolen?
Absolutely. Yes, without a doubt. Trump definitely has more followers, and he does more work with the rallies. It's kind of obvious. Trump's rallies are really long, and they wrap around like blocks and blocks, and Biden doesn't have anyone showing up to his. So 100%.
In fairness, he wasn't really having rallies back then.
That's true, yeah.
The courts, in I think it was over 60 cases, said that there was no fraud in the last election. What is it that has you insistent upon that still today?
That there was fraud in the election. It's obvious that there is fraud in the election. It's just little things like on the news that you can see that kind of shows what's going on in the world, and the negativity that they have out there, and how much they're trying to get everyone to hate Trump kind of shows it.
So that means it was a stolen election because of that?
It's just kind of obvious. I mean, you can see how Trump has more followers, and they're. If that makes. Sorry, hold on. I'm trying to. My mind's going blank for a minute. Hold on one second. I don't know.
They all say the same thing of Trump would not have allowed this to happen. It's hilarious to me. Like, okay, so Trump would not have allowed this to happen. Okay, so like, what do you think he would have done? Started a war, sent in troops, started a proxy war, said because that logic doesn't. Because they're like, oh well, the dictators of this world would not have let Trump. They wouldn't have done this under Trump. Putin wouldn't have invaded under Trump. Why? Because Trump would have invaded? Oh no, he wouldn't have invaded. Because no new wars under Trump. And why were there no new wars? Because there were the logic of like, as if people like no one's scared of Biden because Biden's just going to send in troops and finance armies and proxy war and send billions to Ukraine and blah blah blah. That logic does not make sense. Like, what would he have done with Putin, where Putin's like, oh my God, I'm going to stand down because Trump's going to start a war? Like, at the same time, they're against the war that Trump also would have. Dude, I'm trying to put this logic together. I can't do it. I can't. I can't even. I'm trying to explain this logic and I'm failing at it. She even says it herself. He would have threatened them. Like, threaten them with what? War? The war you don't want us to get into? Because, I mean, like this, unless they're just saying, like, unless they're totally okay with Trump just being like nuke and nuke, right? Unless like they're like totally fine with this because it's going on in a country not theirs, and they're like, oh, you can do you. It's the funniest thing is I've asked MAGA this, it's thing of like, how has Trump made your life better, right? Economically, stuff like that. I mean, of course, economically, and they all say this sort of general thing of like, he woke us up. He woke us up. And they have never, and they've said this passionately, they have never, pointed to like specific, well, like, policy wise, that no, not at all. And it's the funniest thing of like, I actually do believe that he did wake us up. I feel like you have shenanigans going on in politics and in power. And since you need a narcissist to come through who just wants all the attention, who's going to be a total fascist, instead of being like a, behind boardroom doors fascist, right? Like some of the neoliberals, like like W. Bush and Cheney. And you're going to need a narcissist who's going to be an open fascist who wants credit for every single thing they do. Meanwhile, the other conservatives are like, no, bro, like let's not draw attention to this. Look, you did it, like, right? Same thing with Elon Musk, right? You need like a narcissist to basically put on display how much influence they wield and how they are wielding the influence, like publicly and, in display of everyone all the time. So he did wake us up, especially when you try to prosecute him and you're seeing how, just garbage the criminal justice system is at prosecuting, someone for like obvious crimes. So, you sort of got there. You are sort of right. This is exactly what they've been saying, literally right after the election. Like not even like before January 6th inaugurate, like anything. They've said it then, they're saying it now. And their main proof positive is that Biden didn't hold rallies. Biden didn't have anyone like psyched about him. Like how come he's getting so much votes? And it's this weird bubble that they're in where they're at rallies and they're seeing people just on fire. And they're going, how could anyone else win when I'm at a thing and there's 200 people here and we're all on fire? And, we go to places and people are on fire for this cult leader, right? And then, Biden didn't have rallies. Biden also, the Democratic Party just is like garbage at campaigning. So, I mean, there's that. It's because they talk about like some, attempts at, a rally or whatever with everyone's social distancing and, these like memes that they create from it, so that's their only proof positive that the election was stolen because Trump was just way too popular. How could he have ever lost? I mean, I like him and not everyone I know likes him. I mean, I don't know anyone that didn't like him.
What about the rash of anti-Semitism that's been happening in America now? Is that bothersome to you?
Okay, 1 second. So before I answer that, anti-Semitism, so can I not, I don't want to answer any more questions.
Okay, sure. Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, okay. The last question, I mean, anti-Semitism is a real thing. I'm not going to deny that. I got to give her credit though. She straight up she thought about each thing and was like, "Huh." Well, she was a second away from just admitting she doesn't know what anti-Semitism means. You could watch that video again, watch her just be asked the question and just go like, what is that? Huh? Which is a great answer. What about the rise of anti-Semitism? What's that? Like, you know what? Okay. Like, at least we know what we're working with here, right? At least we know, right? Like when we can just sort of define, where everyone is, then we're like, oh, okay, got it. You don't know what anti-Semitism is, like, which is, I don't. That's a hard term to not be aware of. I mean, maybe since I grew up in New York. Like, I don't. Is it just geographic for me? Like, where do you live that you don't know the meaning of the? To be perfectly honest, I would love to live in a world where like that's not even a conversation. Like anti-Semitism, that's impossible, right? And it's impossible for the right reasons. I really am just this woman. She was like, basically, she basically cuts the interview off with just, you know what, I'm good, thanks. Like, saying I don't know. I think a lot more MAGAs should use the words I don't know in response to questions. I mean, hats off to her.